Dr. Schneider, having all these valuable tools, so many people who support you with knowledge, new knowledge, so many co-workers, but also having the opportunity to apply all this to the Musserla area, where your wife and you established the Musserla Global School, living in a time where, so to say, the real people like to be practical. What is you may tell us on a practical side concerning the results of the Musserla experiment?
Well, the Musserla
could be a model.
It was and is a model. What we tried to do at Musserla Global School was create an atmosphere using the kinds of principles that I have been talking about. Meaning that incorporated into the curriculum was the values, spiritual values, social values, mental values, the education of the right brain and the left brain and the connecting of them, and developing exercises for crossing the right brain and the left brain so that you're using both as accurately as possible. Trying to take the curriculum and open it to thinking rather than memorization. You know, simply, for example, to ask math problems as questions, and rather than as a problem, ask them as a question. You know, in addition, how far does it take from, if you were going from here to there to here to there, you know, tell me how far you went. If you know, and you have addition. And if you stopped and you went back 10 kilometers, there's your subtraction. Or if it took you 3 days, there's your multiplication. And if you wanted to divide it up into and take it for 4 days, there's your division. In other words, you make stories out of the curriculum. And in real life. The other thing that we tried to do that was highly effective was gardening. Probably there was no other curriculum that was more successful in that remote area than gardening. When we went to India 18 years ago now in a few days for the first time, there was not a single garden in this village. Not a single garden, and people were hungry. Children did not have enough to eat. But nobody was growing anything. They worked in the fields, rice, chilies, corn, lentils, but nothing, they grew nothing for themselves, you know. And so we developed a curriculum around gardening where every child had his own garden. And they took this very seriously. Now, many people, you might call them the disbelievers, so to speak, say, oh, this will never work. And why are you taking away valuable teaching time? Well, it was the most valuable teaching time we could possibly imagine, because you're teaching math, biology, zoology, you know, social studies, writing, because every child kept a journal for their garden also. You know, I mean, you had in one single curriculum all the facets to create a model for literally how to live, and then you took home a bag of fresh vegetables every day to help feed the family in addition, you know. Now, I was early on trying to think, what are we going to do? You know, I had children come to school with only a tiny bit of rice and a red chili pepper. That's all they had for the day to eat. We put in a breakfast program, you know, so that they would get an egg or some porridge or something, you know. We had a program, actually it was kind of cute because everybody was so amused by it. A toothbrushing pit. You know, everybody had their own toothbrush with their name on, 120 toothbrushes lined up. Twice a day they went and got their toothbrushes. Teacher stood there and squirted on the toothbrush. And then we had a pit where they spit into we call it the spitting pot, you know. But the fact of the matter is these things took, very practical, written into the curriculum as part of the curriculum, you know. One of the things that my wife did that worked so beautifully, because, you know, was how do we get children to read, you know. Now we're talking about children who in some cases spoke only Telugu or not, and that, you know, from illiterate parents, so that their, you know, even their first language was rudimentary, to say the least. And what are we going to do about that? So we got a few hundred books, children's books, tiny little children's books given to us and sent there. And what my wife would do every morning was take a great big stack of these, and it was voluntary to come to school early, and you could read for 1 hour or look at the books for 1 hour, you know. And there were, you know, they were simple books. Picture toy on one side, the word toy on the other side, you know, a picture of a toy, a toy. It was amazing what happened in even 6 months in terms of the increase in vocabulary, the excitement of these kids. In fact, we had to have 2 sessions, so many kids. It got to the point where 100% of the student body came to school to read 1 hour before the classes started. You know, so what we tried to do is develop practical, everyday things that improve life, but were integrated into the education system that the children didn't see as education. They saw it as a wonderful piece of life, you know. And see, even the lunch program, you know, here's a wonderful opportunity, you know. So you give them a lunch program, and then you tell them to break it down, which you know, which vegetable comes from which family, how many calories are in it, you know, what is the protein value of it. You know, you think about it, you can take very simple things and make a wonderful learning process out of it. This is what we tried to do at Mochila Global School. It was incredibly successful. Our children always scored much higher than any other of the schools in the entire area.